Am I wrong for not allowing my daughter to attend my best friend's wedding to her biological father? I know how bad that sounds, and I'll start by admitting this is fully based on my feelings of betrayal, hurt, and disgust. I, 27-year-old female, have an amazing daughter, A, 12-year-old female, and I've been married to the most amazing man in the world, T, 27-year-old male. My daughter and I have been living in Japan for the last 9 years, the home country of my husband. I returned to UK for the first time since leaving this month to meet my nephew. My best friend R, 26-year-old female, and I have been best friends since we were 3 years old. She has always been my rock through everything, especially when I was pregnant with my daughter. As you can see, I gave birth to my daughter when I was 15. Her biological father, D, 33-year-old male, had no interaction with either of us since the night I got pregnant, nor ever shown any interest until now. To address the elephant in the room, D assaulted me when I was 15 and he was 21. I come from a very religious family, aka my father is a deacon. There is no option. However, I absolutely adore my daughter and do not equate her to the horrible experience. She saved me, and I have spent every day loving her, thanks to a lot of support, therapy, and her just being the most loving little sweet peach out there. A few other things to note. One, she does not know the nature of her conception, as how do I even explain that to a child? Two, my husband adopted her, and she knows they're not related biologically, but they absolutely adore one another. And three, D gave up all parental rights in a plea deal for a lesser sentence. Now on to the main thing. I came back from the UK to meet my nephew, but booked to stay a few weeks to visit my family and friends. But it was all a surprise. No one except my mom knew we were coming over. It was very fun and so lovely to see everyone shocked and surprised. My daughter is having the best time with her aunt, and they're all excited to see her in person. I decided to also surprise R. Turning up at her house, ringing the doorbell, and seeing the man who assaulted me was definitely the last thing I expected. I assumed by some twisted and cruel coincidence that I got the address wrong, but then R comes to the door calling him babe. It honestly felt like a horrible cliche teen movie where the main protagonist caught her best friend and her boyfriend together. I knew she was seeing someone, but she said she wouldn't let me meet them until it was in person. She's my best friend. I had no reason to not trust her. I know that makes me stupid, but I never thought she could do this to me. It's been 3 days since then, and she's been blowing up my phone, begging to talk. I finally gave in because, as established above, I'm a moron. She said she was sorry for how I found out about them, and if I could forgive her for falling in love with my ex, which not only ticked me off, but also my husband, who knows everything this whole ordeal put me through. I cut her off saying I couldn't have this conversation, especially since my daughter was in the room, and she said something like, well, she'll have to find out about the wedding soon for her dress fitting. I asked her what she meant, because no way did I hear that correctly, and she said that as her soon-to-be stepmom, she wants her to be the flower girl. As we always said since we were growing up, that our kids would be the flower girl or ring bearer, I told her in absolutely no way, shape, or form would my daughter be attending that wedding. She said I was being petty and jealous, and that she can't stop her real dad from being part of her life. We've not spoken since this morning on the call, but I'm already receiving messages from our mutual friends saying that I've caused her to break down and ruined her wedding. But I genuinely believe I am not only morally right, but also legally. So I'm putting my most personal story online and asking you, am I wrong? Am I wrong for asking wife to do work and being mad when she says no? My wife has been a stay-at-home mom for about 15 years. I have always worked hard, late, and second jobs to get us by when my main job is slow. We've always lived check to check. The last year has been really rough. The job is slow and my career or profession is changing. I've been selling stuff, driving Uber. I have a side gig doing field inspections and mowing some lawns to get by. Now I'm moving out of the office and back to the garage to work. The kids are older, 21, 15, and 10, and can be home alone. The family needs her to be working. It would be good for her to get out and talk to some adults as well. I'm not asking for a lot here, like a few hundred a week. My schedule is somewhat flexible. She is great at having meals already done, so it's not like she cooks every night. She refuses to look for any type of work, and I'm about done with this whole marriage. I feel like I'm being used and taken for granted. I'm 45 and I'm tired of the grind. I've been grinding for 17 years at the same career and at random jobs prior to that. I have no retirement saved, no investments, and no money at all for any of that. On top of that, we're getting into more debt at a rate of like $500 a month on a credit card, which is just for necessities. She refuses, saying I should have done better at my career, and she's done and does her part. Yes, the house is clean and there's dinner, but we're broke. I'm about ready to divorce over it. Am I wrong for refusing to repaint my niece's nursery? Back when my sister was pregnant with her daughter, she asked if I would paint the nursery for her. She wanted this really detailed job done and wanted her daughter's name, Melody, painted on a wall. I wasn't sure about it because my sister is known for taking advantage of me being her older brother, but I ultimately agreed because I figured I would just set some boundaries. She was impossible to work with, pushed my boundaries, and I was working on it a lot longer than I intended because of how much she wanted done and how detailed she was about everything. It took 2 weeks of me doing a few hours every day for her to be okay with it. I told her I was done and she needed to find someone else for the next kid, if she has one. My niece was born a week ago, and my sister changed her mind about the name because she said it was too similar to my daughter's name. So she decided on the name Birdie for her daughter. Cool. She told me I needed to fix the name in the nursery, and I told her no. She'll need to find someone else to fix the name in the nursery because I won't be doing that again. She said it looked off if it was done by someone else, and I told her that's not my problem. She yelled at me, and then she tried to get my wife to change my mind. My wife told her where to go, and she said she had taken up too much of my time on the nursery anyway. Also, that she was rude to demand more. I was upset when my sister went to my wife behind my back, and I was proud of my wife for not letting my sister make more of those demands. My sister told me I was being a witch, and her daughter doesn't deserve for me to be petty over our issues. Am I wrong? Am I wrong for screwing over my sister by immediately quitting babysitting for her? Basically, I, 39-year-old female, was helping my sister Claire, 38-year-old female, with her kids, 9-year-old male and 5-year-old female, because she's going through a nasty split with their dad. They go to the same school as my kid, 6-year-old female, and I work flexibly from home, so it was easy to pick the kids up and watch them for a few hours. I was always paid for my time, as was my husband, who helped, but I quit after Claire accused my daughter of stealing. She said with no evidence or anything that since her daughter's favorite doll was missing, it was obvious my daughter had stolen it, since it was last at my house. I asked my daughter. She said no, and I believed her. She said she saw my niece leave with it, and I believed her. I even searched my whole dang house, and I couldn't find it. I told my sister all this, and she said my daughter is a liar and a thief, and I'm enabling her, and she expects me to pay for a new doll. I was so angry and insist that she was being nasty and horrible that I just said, my daughter is no liar and thief. And you know what? I'm done. Find someone else to babysit, 'cause it certainly won't be me. And hung up. I got 5 missed calls from Claire before I blocked her. She sent panicked messages and tried calling my husband, and he blocked her too. We have learned from my parents that Claire is panicking because she really needs help with the kids, and I'm the only one with a sort of flexible routine to do so. She also said she had found her daughter's doll and that things are okay, but not once has she offered any sort of apology for what she said about my kid. My parents think I'm screwing her over by not helping, and that she made an honest mistake and is just stressed about everything due to her marriage split. They have said that perhaps I should take the higher ground and move on from this, and don't seem to understand that my kid was accused of doing something she didn't do. I see it as I don't care if she's petty to me, but definitely if it's about my kid. And she hasn't once said sorry for accusing my 6-year-old daughter for being a thief. She disrespected my kid, and no amount of bad situation or stress is preventing her from saying sorry and smoothing things over. I should have added my niece never said my daughter stole her doll. She just said something along the lines of, "Mommy, I can't find my doll," and never said any other context to that. So my sister just assumed my daughter stole it, rather than believing it could have just been somewhere in her house. I quit babysitting because she was rude, nasty, and bitter, and is expecting things to go back to normal just because she found the doll. She isn't admitting she messed up, and I would be happy to babysit again, but only if she sincerely apologized. But she isn't, so here we are. Am I wrong for telling my sister I was the golden kid since she couldn't do anything right? My sister is a flaming hot mess. She made my life miserable growing up. She got in with the wrong crowd and ran away multiple times. The house was never peaceful. We are close in age, and I was a pretty good kid. When I was allowed to hang out in the mall in 8th grade, my sister couldn't because my parents didn't trust her. When she was 17, they gave up on her, and I don't blame them. She ruined my mom's wedding dress. At 18, she was gone. They didn't kick her out, she just disappeared. She is back and is now 26. She got her life together, and my parents put strict boundaries with her. I've been meeting up with her more often, and she went on this huge rant about not being invited to Thanksgiving since my parents said they aren't at the point of letting her back in their home yet. After at least 10 minutes, she went on about how I'm the golden child, and at this point, I had enough. I told her I was the golden child since she couldn't do anything right, and she is lucky anyone talks to her. She has never apologized, and she's left in tears. Her boyfriend called me upset and thinks I'm unfair. Edit. This thread has made me realize I don't care what her reason was. She still did a ton of awful stuff to me. It may explain why she acted that way, but it doesn't excuse it. Here's some information down in the comments. Did your parents ever try to help your sister? Take her to therapy and a psychiatrist? Change what school she went to? Interfere when their 13-year-old was getting in with the wrong crowd? If they gave up on her at 17, it sounds like they were terrible parents, especially since now that she's in her mid 20s and they're holding her teenage behavior against her as a reason she can't come over for dinner. OP says, yes, they tried. We moved once to a new school to help her, and I'm still bitter I had to move and lost all my friends for her. She was in detention the first week of the new school. She was awful. Therapy happened with her. Group therapy was a nightmare. I don't blame my parents. It was so bad that I don't want to have kids since I worry they may be like her.